have Holly Robertson join us, and this will be the next talk. Holly Robertson is she's a development officer with the American Bird Conservancy, and she also volunteers with Birds Caribbean for quite a few years now, helping us develop our Caribbean Birding Trail project. So the title of her talk is Developing Bird Tourism Opportunities and Sustainable Livelihoods in the Caribbean Birding Trail. Holly, go ahead and share your screen. And I just want to remind folks to put your questions in the Q&A, and then we will have a 30-minute opportunity for questions and discussions after after the 4 speakers as well. Take it away, Holly.
So you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, hi everybody. Thanks for coming to the session. I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in and share what the Caribbean Birding Trail is all about. So the Caribbean Birding Trail was launched in 2011 with a mission to create and promote nature-based opportunities that engage visitors and locals with the unique birds of the Caribbean. So the Caribbean is a region that's very dependent on tourism to sustain its economy. But for many decades now, the model that's been developed is one that's considered to be a mass tourism model. It's high volume, large cruise ships, extensive resort properties, and the result is a high environmental impact. These activities are concentrated on, fragile coastal ecosystems, on coastlines, and there's also a high social impact as well. Many of these enterprises are internationally owned, and not enough of the revenue that's being generated from them is staying behind on the islands and benefiting local people. So what we want the Caribbean Birding Trail to be is really the exact opposite of that model. Low volume, low impact, and high yield. So what we mean by that is high quality, authentic, unique experiences that we know international travelers especially are very willing to pay for. We want it to be low environmental impact, low social impact, really kind of get beyond the beach, away from the crowds, and into some of these places on these islands that not many people are going, and where we think there's some really excellent opportunities to stimulate a sustainable economy. So some of our specific goals of the project are to grow sustainable tourism opportunities, enhance political support for protected lands and natural areas. All too often we see that governments aren't dedicating enough funding to proper protected area management in their countries, and we'd really like to change that. These areas of course have value, not just for their ecosystem services, but to be income generating locations and that can be a part of the tourism industry of that island. We want to raise awareness of birds and inspire a willingness to protect them. And we want to interpret the Caribbean through birds. And what we mean by that is really just sharing with people that the Caribbean is more than just the gorgeous beaches. And we think birds are just the ticket to be able to connect people to those other places on the islands. So what exactly is a birding trail? Well, it's a network of the best sites on each island for bird watching, enjoying nature, and experiencing culture. So what we've been doing since 2011 at Birds Caribbean is working on 2 different fronts. So one is building the supply or building the capacity. And that's really starts with identifying the sites that we want to promote. And when it's necessary and when we have funding, making improvements to those sites. So doing improvements to trails, installing signage for educational purposes or directional purposes to help people find these places, and creating points of interest like an observation tower or platform to really just create a destination. Guide training is also a really critical part of capacity building. We've developed a customized 5-day training for the Caribbean Birding Trail. It of course focuses on bird identification and elements of being a really good bird guide, but there's also a strong component on environmental interpretation principles. And so we have our facilitators that are trained and certified by the National Association of Interpretation. And we just think it's a really important communication skill. And it's one of these ways that we're going to do more than just educate and raise awareness. We're actually going to, through interpretation and skillful guiding, we can stimulate that connection to birds and natural resources, and ideally create that willingness to conserve them. So at the same time that we're doing that, we're also working on building the demand side for this kind of tourism in the Caribbean. Not quite there yet. So through a variety of marketing and promotional activities, such as creating a promotional video, which we've done, and you can find that on YouTube if you search for Caribbean Birding Trail, and I encourage you all to do that and go watch the video. We've created brochures, which I'll show you in just a second, working with tour operators to start getting the Caribbean Birding Trail brand and goals more widely known and shared with people. And the Caribbean Birding Trail website is a huge part of our promotional strategy. It's the place where we can describe these sites in more detail, have pictures, tell people how to get there, what they're going to see, who to go with, and a lot more. So these are just some of the images that demonstrate what I was just talking about. So for site improvements, the picture on the left is a new suspension bridge that was installed at Ashton Lagoon on Union Island in the Grenadines. And then on the right there, this is a scientific reserve in the Dominican Republic where we installed some nice interpretive signage at the visitor center, helped refurbish that observation tower, put some new signs on the trails, and some other activities that made this more of a destination in the Dominican Republic. So again, guide training has been very important for us. We've done 6 so far. Would love to do a lot more when it's once again possible. A huge measure of success for this project is to see that the individuals that participated in our training go on to then earn a living from bird tourism. And this is something that takes time. You don't become a really good bird guide or know how to identify birds overnight. So it's something that it's not the easiest thing to monitor, but we do have some really great success stories coming out of our training so far. In particular, Grenada, that was our first training we did in 2013. And a couple of those individuals are, they are now incorporating birds into their tours and making a living off of bird tourism, and essentially doubling and tripling the capacity of that island alone to have bird tourism there in Grenada. And not only that, but they're engaging with the Birds Caribbean conservation community. They're attending Birds Caribbean conferences. And so it's really great to see. And we're really excited to see what other success stories come out of these guide trainings. So this is an example of some of the brochures we've created. One is for Jamaica and one is for Grenada. And our idea is really to get these into the hands of the people that are at those resorts and hotels on these islands. We know that they did not go to those islands for bird watching, but what we do know is that in the week or more days that they're there on the island, they do want to get away from that hotel and spend some time seeing some sights, spending a half day or a full day doing something unique, something fun. And we think going bird watching and seeing some cool birds with a local person is something that they would enjoy. We are seeing evidence of that. So we're encouraged to be building kind of a new bird watching base on the islands. So working with tour companies like Birding the Islands, Carefree Birding, Wildside Nature Tours has also been something we've been doing recently. These are companies that have already been, having bird tourism opportunities in the Caribbean, but working with them, we've been incorporating the CBT message and brand. And what's also been great is that they have been including in the price of their tours a donation back to Birds Caribbean and the project. So very grateful for the partnership with those companies. And then Birds Caribbean has been doing tours themselves, developing very successful trips and taking people to Cuba, for instance. I think this picture was from last year here on the right. And it's really indicative, these images, of the kind of experience we want people to have when they go on the CBT, small groups, lots of fun, lots of culture, and of course, going after those specialty birds that are on the island. So the Caribbean Birding Trail website, please go and visit the site. We work on it diligently all the time, revamping the style, the functionality, the content. CaribbeanBirdingTrail.org is where you can go check out the more than 160 sites in 25 countries that we now have listed there. Excellent maps, excellent information. We need your help to keep it fresh, keep it current and up to date. We also have 42 guides from 21 islands listed, which is great, but we could always have more. And so what's next for us? Well, it's really more of the same. We want to do more guide trainings when it's safe and once again possible to do so. We want to keep building out that CBT website, getting more sites and more information on there, and not just birding sites necessarily, but also really nice cultural sites. We know that some of the islands don't have a lot of endemics. They might not be on the hit list for some of these international bird travelers, but there's a whole other subset of birders that are more casual, and we know that they want to mix in some bird watching along with some really fun, cultural, unique experiences on their travels. And then we want to keep raising awareness of the project and raise more funding so we can do more of these site improvements and guide trainings. So thank you all for listening, and a big thanks to the donors that have gotten us to where we are today, and that includes the Fish and Wildlife Service, Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund, and Marshall Reynolds Foundation. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. That was excellent, really comprehensive and fast presentation. You got a lot in there. That was great. So we do have a couple questions for you. So somebody asked, amazing work. How difficult is it finding continued funding?
I actually think since I do development work full time as my job, I actually think this project is extremely attractive. And I think there are a lot of funding opportunities out there, just a matter of, dedicated time to doing it. Birds Caribbean is a small organization, and there's so many awesome projects to fundraise for. But I think we've had great success to date, and it's really just a matter of, dedicating some time to exploring more fundraising options. I feel very certain they're out there.
Yeah, we need a full-time CBT person for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so one more question. Guy Fox asks, thank you for the funding, Guy. Have you done any analysis on return on investment looking at tourism income at refurbished, upgraded sites? Might be a powerful demonstration of the value of improving bird tourism sites, assuming the ROI validates the upfront investments.
Yeah, this is something that Lisa and I were talking about just today, actually, and it's something that we've always wanted to do, which was incorporating a monitoring mechanism to this project to be able to say with some amount of confidence that we've been able to stimulate economies and increase, someone's income because they were able to incorporate a bird tour into the mix of what they're doing. These guides, of course, have lots of things in the repertoire. They can do a natural history tour and then a cultural tour, and bird tours is just, it's an extra added thing for them to do. And so what we really need to do is, I would love to get a grant just to work on that, because these guides, we know that they are incorporating bird tourism, and it would just be really a matter to start anyway, to do a simple survey with some of them and get that information from them. And I think we could certainly do that. But yeah, this is a long-term endeavor. It takes time for people to start doing this work and being a bird guide. And then the market, again, is also just not quite there. People are not thinking about the Caribbean for bird watching. So in part, we're trying to actually create it from the ground up, this desire for bird tourism in the Caribbean, and not going after the hardcore birder, going a step down to that casual birder. They're actually a lot harder to target when you think about marketing. They're not necessarily reading bird watching digest. So there's a lot we're working on.
Yeah, we have a birding and yoga tour planned for next year, 2022. So that's a way of like reaching other markets and bringing other people in that enjoy nature but aren't birders, hardcore birders, but getting them into birding and tapping into that market. And we do have a lot of anecdotal evidence about our success, but you're right, we need to do more quantitative analysis. One example is Vaughn Francis, our guide in Grenada. He is one of the top tour operators on Grenada, and he took everything that we learned and put it into use. He wasn't a birder at all before he started guiding, and now he's like winning awards on TripAdvisor because he's doing so well. So he's one of our star students, We got it.
Yeah, and he, you know, he got experience by going and doing complimentary bird tours at one of the resorts for the people that were staying there. You know, these people that were like tired of laying on the beach, needed something else, and they, and he was like, "Can I offer this half-day complimentary?" And it was like a low-pressure environment for her to learn, for him to learn how to be a bird guide, because they knew nothing, and they loved going to and seeing the endemic Grenada dove with him. And so that is just, you just want to keep replicating what has been a really successful model with him and in Grenada.
Yeah, exactly. All right, there are several more questions, but we'll have to hold them for our Q&A and panel discussion after this last talk. So thank you so much, Holly.